Good morning. So I'm really excited to share that I finished my neoclassical style dress. It's been a while in the making, but I've been really hardcore at sewing recently, and I got it done. I'm hoping to digitize this pattern, but I've got a lot of really exciting patterns that I'm in the process of getting to you guys. So I wanted to talk about this dress. I started actually making this dress before my 6-year-old daughter was born. Not this exact copy, but when I say make it, I mean I started making the pattern for this dress a long time ago. I love the movie Pride and Prejudice. I know that there's a lot when it comes to literature of this Pride and Prejudice is better than that Pride and Prejudice, but something I really like about the Keira Knightley, I think it was the 2007 version, is they got the clothes right. But Pride and Prejudice was being written during the Neoclassical period, and then it was published in the Regency period. So it's technically about the Neoclassical period, even though that was only a couple years before. And the waistlines were not quite as high. By the Regency period, the waistlines were right under the bust, so high. And that's not really my favorite look. But I think that they were kind of getting away from corsetry for a little while and wanting more of a Romanesque look. Let's see. Yeah, so this is a book by DK, which I really like. And battery's gonna die. I might have to switch. And I'll put a link in the description for this. But this is a great fashion history book. It talks about everything all the way up until the 90s, I think. Oh, maybe not that far. Oh yeah. But, so this was the neoclassical waist. You can see how it's not way up high. And then a few years later, they started rising until you get to the Regency period where there's hardly a top to her dress at all. And I'm not a huge fan of Regency style dresses, but I do love neoclassical, so I wanted something in my daily life, something I could wear that wasn't costumey, even though I would totally wear neoclassical style dresses every single day. What floor length if that were kind of culturally where we were. But I made this one. It's got this side detail, and it's on my, I feel like I have kind of a higher true waist anyway, so maybe that's why I like this style better. It's up on my smallest point. And the back is probably my favorite, which you can't see as well with this pattern. But the seams in the back are just beautiful. And I love this silhouette. So obviously during the neoclassical period it wouldn't have been short like this, but that's not the time we're living in. So I shortened it and I took the sleeves off for this one to be a summer dress. I do plan to make more, and so I actually have some fabric here that I wanted to open with you. And it's not just for this project. I ordered swatches from a linen merchant on Etsy, and I'll link her store down below too. I have not opened her package. I have not opened this because I wanted to wait and do it with you guys. So I would love to get some stripes. There's some beautiful, if you remember the Keira Knightley version, there are some beautiful, there are some beautiful striped patterns, and especially on the back with these intersecting seams. If you cut it on the bias so that the stripes are coming together, it makes some really neat patterns on the back. I love this woman's dress. She's so beautiful. She's got the stripes happening, and I love this color shawl that she's put around herself. So, oh, actually that's a coat. I was looking at it upside down and backwards here. Yeah, that's a coat. So I may do that for the fall. Some kind of a linen coat to go with these dresses. So let's see. This came from a merchant all the way in Lithuania. I had a hard time finding linen. And I had found an organic linen merchant on Etsy, but when I looked recently, her page was taking a break. So we'll see. So look at this. I ordered all these swatches. Oh, and now I have to pick a color. Oh, look at this. This is what I was talking about. Look at these stripes. Wouldn't it be cool to have those intersecting into a V on those seams on the back? Oh, so excited about this. Look at that. So now, maybe leave a comment down below. What color do you think I should do? I don't look very good, I'll tell you, in like a dusty pink. It's not my color. Totally washes me out. So the colors that work best on me are generally bright, like yellow. I can do yellows. Really love yellow. Mustardy yellows. Ooh, these are pretty. I haven't really thought of purple, but I kind of like that purple. Yeah, this is a lot paler than I thought it was going to be. I don't know if you can see, but this is for a surprise I'm making, and you guys can stay tuned for that. And so is this brown. What could it be? You have to stay tuned to find out. So before I finish this up, I'd like to say if you enjoy this video and want to see more patterns that I'm making and more of my everyday, I just made a video about how I'm sewing large quantities of clothes for my family. I'm not just sewing for myself, but I'm sewing also for my family. And I take a bit more time sewing my own clothes because I am a curvy lady and my body is constantly changing between pregnancies. And so mine take more time. But I am working towards sewing all my own clothes. All of my own clothes I will make nursing friendly. I have this thought that it's ridiculous that any clothes in the universe are not nursing friendly. I feel like that shows how detached our society is from what motherhood is, and when most women will become mothers at some point or another, and then to have all your clothes not work to feed your baby? Like, what? Whoever said that that was okay, you know? And I look at historical dresses, and oftentimes historical dresses are nursing friendly, and I feel like we need to get out of this like pilgrim society. You know, I feel like modesty has become more important than the health of... Hold it! Okay, so it's a couple of days later, actually. Yes, I set everything up again out here. But after I said that we were influenced by the Pilgrims. I started thinking, were we? Were we really? Wasn't it the Victorians who had huge aversions to women nursing because they thought it was vulgar and animalistic, and they were the ones who often hired in servants to wet nurse their babies? I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, like, yeah, the dumb pilgrim costumes you might see in the store don't have any buttons. But the more I started to research, all the women, the real Puritan women that I saw, had open front dresses. All of the Puritan women had open front dresses. They did go up to their necks, but they often would have coats with buttons all the way down, or they would have it open and then they would wear a shawl tucked into their lower dress, or they would have I don't even know, like a pin-on collar that went over their top. And I'm thinking, although I cannot find any books to support this, I have searched. So if you know about any books that talk about breastfeeding through the ages and the clothes that women wore, I would love to find that, because I'm having a hard time finding any resources about this. So I guess you could say this is all theoretical from what I'm watching or what I'm looking at in the history books that I do have. There is a woodpecker on our roof. So even Puritan women had wore clothes that you could open up the front. And I think that in the pre-bottle period, that had to have been the case, because otherwise we wouldn't have civilization as we know it, because babies wouldn't be able to nurse. People were not so preoccupied with aesthetic of the breast, and they were more preoccupied with, feeding their children with their breasts. Imagine that. So I found these pictures in my little fashion book, my little Smithsonian DK. Here is a Puritan woman. Is she? Here she is. So here is the Puritan woman. You can tell she has a seam down the front, and she's very covered up and modest, but she has the ability to feed her baby. So I take back my statement about we need to stop being such a pilgrim nation, because even the pilgrims couldn't give two hoots about a boob. It was for babies. I watched a documentary, and I'll put a link for it down below, about breasts. And in that documentary, it said out of 190 countries surveyed, only 14 of those countries found the breast even remotely sexual. Like, it was fewer than, I think, 3 that found them, like, erotic. So out of 190 countries, that tells me that our fixation with the breast is a cultural fixation, not a deeply moral one. I spent the summer of 2008 in a place called Guinea, West Africa. You've probably never heard of it, because it's a tiny country and it doesn't get a lot of publicity except for when they're having a fit of Ebola, but it's a beautiful little country right next to Ghana. It is a French-speaking country, as it was colonialized by the French, but it is now a republic, I believe. And in Guinea, if you were to show the back of your knee, that would be considered outrageous. Just like if you were to take your top off in public here in the United States. But you can walk around without a shirt there, and no one gives 2 hoots, because that is how they feed their baby. And the breast would be no different than looking at a baby bottle. So I must get down off my soapbox, but I get tired of it being a modesty issue when it is really a cultural issue. I am frustrated with our churches for having taken a practical necessity of life and turning it into a sexual perversion, when really it is a cultural decision to fixate on this, and it is not a moral issue. Recently at my church we talked about the rate in which our men in church are addicted to pornography, and my thought is that if we supported breastfeeding and let the breast be what it is supposed to be, a tool to feed our children, and a body part sits upon the physical clay pot that is our house of our soul, our body. If we could show our culture a body in a different light, then I think we would have far fewer men addicted to pornography. We would have far less violence in our society. We would have far less rape. We would have far less women sitting quietly crying with sore breasts and a crying baby because they don't have any help breastfeeding. I think that we are very heavily influenced by regal royal Victorian society in a negative way, and although I love historical sewing, I do not love that it was around the Victorian era that the first bottles were invented, which led to lots and lots of sickness, because what once had been perfectly filtered through their mother's body, breast milk, was being traded out for formula with disease-ridden water, bacteria-ridden water, and babies were dying in bottles where the nipple was made of leather, and women were encouraged not to wash those leather nipples for weeks on end, and they could just throw them away and get a new one in 2 weeks' time, and babies began to die. Now, I am not trying to knock on formula feeding mothers, because today we have sterile protocol and babies do okay on formula, and I think you can choose that if that is what you'd like, and it's perfectly okay. You're doing a good job if you have a fed baby. It doesn't matter if it's breast or bottle. Until about the early 1800s, women had access to their breasts for a good reason, because they didn't want their babies to die and there was no alternative. Modesty has become more important than the health of our children, and I don't think it's I was thinking about, like, the scoop neck of a dress was not there. I feel like our culture has said, like, don't wear a low dress because it's enticing. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure historically dresses were low because women had to feed their babies. That just makes sense to me. So, yeah. Anyway, all of my patterns that are for women will be nursing friendly. I will not make anything, and I want to make silhouettes that are like, I would love to wear something up high around my neck, but I'm working on putting zippers in everything so that you can feed your baby and still wear the clothes that you want to wear, because that is silly. Fashion industry, hear my plea. I don't care if you copy this idea, please do. Make all your clothes nursing friendly so that moms don't have to just wear frumpy t-shirts and leggings for the rest of eternity. That's ridiculous. Anyway, yep, I'm excited. Ooh, look at this green. So yeah, leave a comment down below. What color do you think I should do next? We've got so many options here of this beautiful linen. Yeah, and another thing with my love of historic fashion, I love to try to find out what the common people were wearing. I'm not a huge fan of all the fancy royal regal looks, but learning about what people wore is functional functional clothing that people wore. I just think it's really cool. And there's this, I'll link it to this guy's channel. There's this guy who talks about the Scottish tartan or the kilt, about how utilitarian that was, and I just love that. I've read 6 of the Outlander books, and I feel like this guy's channel makes how they're using their kilts make so much more sense. It's really cool. But that, I don't know, the kilt was it was almost like a military uniform. How, like, it was their tent, and it was their blanket, and it was their outfit, and it was their raincoat, and it was their winter coat. It was everything all in one. Really fascinating. So I'll leave a link about that down below. And thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel and help me figure out what color I need to do next. And stay tuned for this surprise I'm making. Thanks for watching, and talk to you later.